Good morning, thriving warriors and those who wish they were. Starting a little bit late today. We had another new camper, another new member. But let me start with the usual. Alexa, what is the date and time?
It's Tuesday, July 26, 2022 at 6:20.
Okay, great. Alexa, what is the weather for today?
In Toronto, it's 72 degrees Fahrenheit with mostly cloudy skies. Today, you can look for some sun and thunderstorms, with a high of 94 degrees and a low of 72 degrees. Have a good morning, Edward.
Thank you, Alexa. Okay, so it's the 7:26. We're getting a little bit of a late start. The people just left.
I'm not sure.
The people just left. As I said, we have a new camper, a new thriving warrior, Scott. And so far, I feel pretty good about Scott. He's got a really good attitude. So just like Henry, both Henry and Scott have very good attitudes. They're going to be very helpful at this particular time. Turns out, once again, divine intervention, perhaps. Scott used to be a commercial cleaner. And so what do we need at Citrus Garden? Somebody who knows how to clean. Boom. Good. Excellent. So what do we do here at Thriving Warrior, especially at Camp Rainman? What do we do? What are we supposed to do? What are we trying to do? What is the objective? We are here to help people move from point A to point B, where B is better. We're trying to help people cultivate a life of meaning and purpose. We're here to help people. Good morning, people. Good morning, men. We're here to help people pursue their passion for work and have a career that is enjoyable. And why do I keep repeating this every day? Jeff, why do I keep repeating the same things every day, basically at the beginning of this monologue? In the hopes that one day people will remember, that it will sink in, that people will focus and just do it. Just do it. Okay. So we're going to talk about shadows and light, but first I want to talk about yesterday. The Jesuit was here. We went to the Oasis, and I was quite surprised at how positive the Jesuit was, because he's usually pushing on me to discernment, hold back, don't get too far ahead of yourself, don't let your ego get involved. And yesterday he was out there. Unfortunately, it was raining, not hard, but too hard to just walk the ground, so he didn't get to see the lake. But we could take pictures of it from the car. Didn't get to go up the mountain where the pond is there and see how the water will flow down through the rocks. He didn't get to do that. But he got a good idea, and he blessed the property and those of us who will be there in the future. So that was good. And then we spent the day talking about it. So I picked the Jesuit Father Max, who writes in our books and magazines. In case you do not know, Father Max, right there. Okay. And he's also good friends with Dave Marlin and a host of other people, including Father Greg Boyle for Homeboy Industries, which is we consider to be our mothership. We want to be like them, except in a different way. All right, cool. So let's just jump into it. 4 minutes and 57 seconds. Let's just jump into Seth Godin. This is kind of a long one. I read it earlier, and it's worth contemplating. Shadows and light. And of course, the transcript is below. Rhetorical questions. Some easy, some particularly difficult, all worth thinking about. Okay, let's look up what's the definition of rhetorical. Rhetorical is relating to or concerning with the art of rhetoric. Ask in order to produce an effect or to make a statement rather than elicit information. Okay, so it's something that's said or asked. A rhetorical question would be a question that is asked in order to produce an effect or to make a statement rather than elicit information. Let's see. Okay, expressed in terms intended to persuade or express. So it's not really about the subject matter at hand. It's kind of like off over here. Let me ask you a rhetorical question. It doesn't bear directly on what we're talking about. Okay, so rhetorical questions, some easy, some particularly difficult, all we're thinking about. And then he has a list of about 10 different types of rhetorical questions. And you could easily just pull the ripcord, go to and expose your underlying belief. Like, what's the first thing you think of, or what's the first answer you have when you ask this question? You can do that, which is kind of good because it reveals what your underlying beliefs are. Or you could do that and then phenomenologically step outside yourself and say, why did I come up with that answer? Let me look at it from over here. As Nancy Kane would say regarding President Lincoln, let me look at it from here. Let me look at that problem from here. And in law school, they teach you to be able to argue both sides. So, for example, if your house near the ocean has a beautiful view, should the person who buys the lot closer to the shore be able to build a house on it? Now, your initial thing might be no, because then there goes my view. Or it could be, well, yeah, because I could have bought that lot, perhaps. Or that's life. That's how the system works. So I would suggest the best exercise to discover your underlying belief is what's your first thought? I have a beautiful view of the ocean. Should somebody be able to build a house in front of me, completely blocking my view of the ocean? Should they be able to do that? What's your initial thought? And for me, it's, oh God, that sucks. I'd hate that. That would really destroy my life, because my life was built around looking out at the ocean every morning. And now I can't do that. And I know that I'm going to feel bad in the future because I'm always going to remember that I used to be able to look out at the ocean. Now I can't. God, that sucks. But then if I think about the other person, or the person who owns the land, and I'm saying that person can't sell their land simply because I have a greedy piggy boy desire to not let anyone else block my view. So you can argue it both ways. All right. If your restaurant needs to empty the dirty oil from the deep fryer, is it okay to dump it on the curb, possibly causing a bicyclist to slip and crash? Okay. The question isn't, it kind of seems obvious, but the unobvious thing is, how do you argue against that? Okay, so this is just about a restaurant needing to empty dirty oil from the deep fryer. Is it okay to dump it on the curb? Okay, and if you want to get into the nuance of that, it could be, well, I'm not intending to dump it on the curb. I did not intend to dump it on the curb. I intended to pour it into a container that can be taken away to get processed properly. That was my intention. But oops, I'm blank, and I screwed the pooch, and I spilled it on the curb. Now what? Is that okay that I spilled it on the curb? I dumped the oil on the curb. Is that okay? Do I have a duty to protect bicyclists. And if you want to get into it, you could say, well, bicyclists aren't supposed to be on the curb. They're supposed to be in the street. Okay. If your car painting facility exhausts tiny droplets of red paint while doing a job and the paint floats away and lands on a white car nearby, are you responsible? Do you get to say, don't blame me, it's the machine's fault? Okay, again, kind of seems obvious. And again, this isn't a car. This doesn't say it's a car that's getting painted. This is just not a car nearby. And it's just asking, are you responsible? Or do you get to say, hey, I'm not responsible. I don't make the tiny droplets. I'm not the one that's causing the paint to float away. Why am I responsible? And who is the you? Is it okay to make money selling building toys made from little, tiny, powerful magnets? Is it okay to make money selling building toys made from tiny, powerful magnets? You might say, sure, why not? What happens if kids eat the pellets and suffer internal injuries? Should you have anticipated that? That if you have tiny pellets, especially if they're shiny or they're bright colored, is it possible that kids are going to eat them? Yes. When I was in law school, they taught us if you ever wanted to kill your kids and get away with it, you just have to say to them, never, ever, ever put peanuts up your nose, because you know they'll do it. And that was a joke. That wasn't truth. And just for those people, disclaimer, just for those people who think it might be that my law school is teaching people how to kill their kids. Should a factory dump poison in the river even if it's legal? What's the argument to that? The argument for that? Hey, if it was bad, there'd be a law against it. Who says it's poison? There's poison in everything. The amount of poison in the water is so diluted that it won't affect humans or wildlife or plant life. Okay. If you deep fry your holiday turkey, is it okay to pour the used oil down the drain or dump it in the river? Can the architect of a skyscraper specify mirrored glass even if the glare bothers people in nearby buildings? What about building a huge skyscraper that casts a shadow all day on the park next door? And is it okay to take a private jet to Scotland? So this is about somebody. This is a particular, because this is and ... So there's a particular person that took a private jet to Scotland. Is it okay to take a private jet to Scotland, even if the exhaust from that jet will cause distress to countless people who didn't choose it? What if it takes a long time for the effects to be felt? No easy answers, but we need to keep asking the questions. Okay? So there's a rhetorical questions. They don't lead to a point. It's just something to think about when it comes to other specific things. Okay, so that is Seth Godin. Thank you, Seth. And we're at 13:47, so we're running late. Jenny Newberry, good morning, Director. Jeannie Newberry, good morning, Jeannie. Good morning, Jeannie. How are you feeling? So Jeannie had some kind of physical mishaps this week, one of which is spraining or breaking her wrist. And then there was something else yesterday about being sick. And so best wishes to Jeannie, and I hope all is well. We are at 6:42, so we're well late of our time. We're 14 minutes and 20 seconds in. Boom. What does that mean? What should you think of when I do that? What should that trigger in your brain? What should the automatic thought response be? It should be, yesterday was the only easy day. Navy SEAL maxim, yesterday was the only easy day. Today is going to be harder. We're going to put more energy into it. And hard doesn't mean bad. We're going to put more energy into it. We're going to do more. Number 2, Don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself today to who you were yesterday. Try to do a little bit better. That leads to number 3. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're comfortable being uncomfortable, great. Last night we had a little kind of discussion here about dinner because we have been using massive, huge plates, probably only because they're the ones that are in the front and because we have a habit of using those plates, not because whoever first pulled out the plates, and it doesn't matter who did the plates, but it's because, well, those plates are there and they're practical and they're functional. And we don't have to worry about food spilling out. But just like, what is that thing about vacuums, or time tends to increase to that which is allotted for it, or something like that. When you have a big plate, you tend to do what? When you're putting food on it, you have a picture in your mind of how much food should be on a plate. So you add more food to a bigger plate to make the plate fit in your mind's image of how much food should be on the plate. Also, it's an easy way to justify eating a lot of food because it's not really noticeable. But if you had a small plate and you mounded it up with food that on a huge plate would look normal, all of a sudden you stand out. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And the uncomfortableness would be we don't need to eat as much as we think we do. Food, Jeannie, still a little nauseous and in pain, but not so much. Okay, Jeannie, boom, good. That's the spirit. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. So Jeannie's doing that. Nauseous, but not as much. So she's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. She's getting used to that feeling. So food, for our purposes, food should be to give you the right amount of the right type of calories and nutrition. Food should not be eaten to make you feel better. Should not be, I'm under stress, so I need to eat and then start becoming short for my weight. No, food should be eaten for the amount of calories that are needed. I now really have a preference for a liquid diet. Gotten used to juicing, and nobody cares, but I got used to juicing, and it's actually, I prefer it to having to chew my food. But again, thank you, Father Max, for the great lunch yesterday. Had a great double cheeseburger at Denny's. It was really quite good. Really, really good. And with that, and our repetition of what we do, boom, Navy SEAL Maxim. Right, yesterday was the only easy day. Don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Do your best. Let's try to make something happen today. And it will all work out if we do that. Cut and